Let's continue our conversation with former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Danny Ayalon. Ambassador, again, we appreciate your time.
You are most welcome, JD.
Now, here we are, the first day of Hanukkah. Last month, the Prime Minister set forth very stark scenario regarding a nuclear Iran. How close do you believe we might be to seeing Iran with nuclear arms?
Well, JD, I would say a lot will depend upon the conclusion. How will the negotiations between the P5+1, led by the United States, and Iran, will the negotiations finish or end with the complete dismantling of the nuclear capability of Iran, or just a suspension, as the situation is right now? And what is a real missing opportunity of historic proportion is that there was no demand from the Iranians to dismantle, because Iranians are on their knee. They are not on par with the world international powers. First and foremost, they are here the culprits. They are the ones who breached any of their commitments on the NPT that they are signatory on, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Also, they are in material breach of Security Council resolutions. So there is no issue here of negotiations, but of demand the wrongs of Iran on the one thing. Secondly, Iran is on the verge of economic collapse because of the sanctions at work. So instead of pushing further and getting the concessions out of Iran, giving them more leeway by sanctions just for suspension, I think strategically was a mistake. Now, it's not, there's still room to correct that, especially now with oil prices going so much down. I think Iran could really be much more pliable now, because the Ayatollahs, as irrational and crazy and radical as they are, they're not irrational when it comes to their own political survival. And they, without an economy, social unrest, political unrest can really endanger their own seats. So now is the time to push and get a good agreement.
Danny, along those lines, the New York Times featured an article yesterday detailing how Iran's president is determined to close this deal and deal at home politically with those forces who would prefer not to see an agreement with the West, even if it means continued sanctions on Iran. Do you believe the Times story has some substantiation here?
I believe that Rouhani, which supposedly shows a pretty face to the West, and this is why he was elected or semi-appointed. He couldn't have run without the nod from these radical Ayatollahs, is exactly to tempt the West to get an agreement which is not conclusive. That means suspension of their capabilities, so at any time in the future, at their will, they can run, become a threshold country, and make a breakthrough for a nuclear bomb, which would be devastating for all of us, not just Israel, and not just to Saudi Arabia and all the other allies of the United States, but basically to Europe and to the United States itself. We all have to be reminded that they also have these long-term ballistic missiles.
Right. And Danny, so you're telling us all, beware anyone characterized as an Iranian moderate when it comes to nuclear weapons. Now, before we go, about a minute left, I'm interested in your assessment of the current state of relations between our two nations. Are things going to improve in the near future?
I hope so. The United States and Israel, JD, are natural allies, and our interests and everything is so much intertwined. Must get a much closer, I would say, views at the top. Although the relationship are much bigger than anyone who occupies at any time the White House or the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. Our defense, intelligence, all the other systems, economy, high-tech, are working so well together for the benefit of all of us. But it is very important also because this the prism or what we see, what the world sees, is the relationship at the top. And
we have to improve on that.
Daylight,
yes, sir. Danny Ayalon, hate to cut you off. Appreciate your time. America's Forum will continue.